All right, this is a continuation of the one I didn't finish. Sorry, the bell rang the other day. So this is PF5, example 4. I want you to write a polynomial function. So if it's a polynomial function, that means that it cannot have any i's in it. It has to be positive integer exponents, and it has to be real coefficients. Has a leading, and I want it in standard form. So standard form means I'm going to have to multiply it out. Okay, and I know I have a leading coefficient of a -1/2, and I have a real root at 3, -3, so that's going to be an x plus 3. And then I have an imaginary root at 3 minus 2i. So this is where, I'm going to actually move this up a little bit because I'm going to need a lot of room for this problem. Okay, so here is what we really need to talk about here. If it is a polynomial function, then it can't have imaginary in it when you multiply it out. It can have imaginary roots, but they should actually all change into real numbers. So if you think back to last chapter, if I know one of my roots is 3 minus 2i, then I know the other root is 3 plus 2i, right? This was called the conjugate. So this is coming back, conjugate. I just spelled that wrong, but we'll go with it. Okay, so when I did this parentheses, it was really x minus a -3, right? We do the opposite. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to take and do this blue, okay? And so I'm going to do x minus 3 minus 2i. So when I put that inside the parentheses, it's going to be x minus 3 plus 2i. It changes the signs. And so then the same thing's going to happen here on this one. Okay, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say, okay, x minus 3 plus 2i. So I have to put that negative sign into both of them. So minus 3i, or minus 3 minus 2i. Okay, so now we've been talking about this over and over and over again. If I had 2 times 3 times 4, I can only times 2 things together at a time. But what if I had 2 times 3 times 4 times 5? Could I times these things together and times those things together and get 120? Okay, well, 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 4 is 24. And 24 times 5 is 120. So I can multiply 2 things together at a time. So I am going to just make some decisions here. It doesn't matter which ones I multiply together. I'm going to multiply these together, and I would strongly suggest it because they both have i's in them. And I need my i's to cancel. So I'm going to start by multiplying them. So I'm going to multiply in by the x. So that's going to be x squared minus 3x minus 2ix. And then I'm going to change colors so you can see. I'm going to multiply in by the 3. So minus 3x plus 9 plus 6i. And then finally, I'm going to times in by the 2i. So I would have plus 2ix minus 6i minus 4i squared. Okay, so both parentheses had 3, and when I'm done, I should have 9. So I'm going to take a second, and I'm going to put all my like terms together. I have x squared. Boom. No other x squareds. I have a minus 3x and a minus 3x, and I have no other x's, so it's a minus 6x. And then if I look at this, I have a minus 2ix and a plus 2ix. Those cancel. I have a plus 6i and a minus 6i. Those cancel. And then finally, I have, I'm going to change this to a plus 4 because it's a negative 4i squared. So a negative and a negative is a positive. So that would be plus 13. So I multiplied those 2 things together. Now I'm going to multiply in by x plus 3. So I'm going to multiply in by the x, and that gives me x cubed minus 6x squared plus 13x. And then I'm going to multiply in by the 3, so I'd have plus 3x squared minus 18x. Ooh, I don't know why I put the squared, sorry. Plus 39. Okay, and so then I'm going to put like terms together, and I'm going to go ahead and times by the 1/2 as well. So I would have a negative 1/2 x cubed. That takes care of that one. I have a negative 6 and a positive 3, so that's a negative 3x squared, but I'm timesing it by a half, negative 1/2. So plus 3/2 x squared. I have a 13 minus 18, so that's a negative 5, times a negative 1/2 would be plus 5/2 x, and then minus 39/2. So that is my equation in standard form, and that is a doozy, and you need to practice these. Okay, I would let me know that up on the front board is the times that I'm here during this week. So if you need to catch me and talk about any of these, but you're going to have to take some time and do the algebra on these. Okay. All right. So use the graph to find the factor. So this is going to happen on your homework tonight. When I did the video earlier, the first part of the video, I was giving you a root. I was saying determine whether it was a factor, and then if it is a factor, find the others. Okay, well now on the end of your assignment tonight, they're just going to give you this equation. Okay, so I kind of made it go faster. So what you're going to do, if they give you an equation, you're going to type it into your calculator to find the roots. And I'll tell you right now, if this is the only information I give you, you would have a calculator. So I type this into the calculator. It is a degree 4. So I'm going to need root 1, root 2, root 3, and root 4. And if I look, I have root 1 at a negative 2. And I have root 2 at 1. Okay, so these are going to give you roots. You're going to have to type it into your calculator. I know I need 4, and if this is what's on my calculator, I know the other 2 are going to be imaginary. So I'm going to have to use the quadratic formula, but this is a degree 4. Okay, so I am literally going to have to, I'm going to move this so I can, and it doesn't matter which one you do first. So like if I did 45 divided by 5 times 9, I could do 45 divided by 5 and get 9, and 9 divided by 9 is 1. Or I could do 45 divided by 9 and get 5, and 5 divided by 5 is 1. So I can do either one first. So I'm going to go ahead and use blue, and I'm going to divide by this one because it is a 4th degree. There is not a 4th formula. So you are going to have to long divide this thing twice to find the roots. Okay, so if I do x plus 2, and then I'm going to do x to the 4th minus 2x cubed minus x squared plus 10x minus 8. So what would I multiply x by to get x to the 4th is x cubed. And you could do synthetic on this, I don't care. Plus 2x cubed, sorry. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and change the signs, and I get a negative 4x cubed, bring down the negative 1x squared. How do I change an x into a 4x cubed is going to be a minus 4x squared, so that's a negative 4x cubed minus 8x squared. Change my signs, and I would have 7x squared plus 10x. So I'd get plus 7x, so 7x squared plus 14x. Change your signs, and you get a negative 4x minus 8. So that's a negative 4, and I get a negative 4x minus 8. Change your sign. Sorry, my answer is 0. Okay, how did you know the answer was going to be 0? Because it actually hits on the axis at a negative 2. So if you wouldn't have gotten 0, then you would have done something wrong. So now I've gotten it down to something cubed, but I need these other 2 roots. So I'm going to take this entire answer, because I'm going to divide again, and now I'm going to use purple for my purple root, and I'm going to do x, it hits at a positive 1, so x minus 1, and now I'm going to take my answer, x cubed minus 4x squared plus 7x minus 4. How do I change an x into an x cubed? I'm going to do an x squared. So that's x cubed minus 1x squared. Change your signs. That's a negative 3x squared plus 7x. Negative 3x. Negative 3x squared plus 3x. Change your signs is 4x minus 4. So plus 4. So I get 4x minus 4, change your signs, and my remainder is 0. How did I know I was going to get a remainder of 0? Because it hits the axis at 1. So it has to work. Okay, so now I've divided by this, and now if you look, we have this left over, x squared minus 3x plus 4. It's not factorable. I know it's not factorable because if I look at the graph, it doesn't hit. But I could complete the square or use the quadratic formula. I'm going to go ahead right here and just use the quadratic formula. So negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. So 9 minus 16 is a negative 7. And so my answer, these are two roots, is 3 plus or minus I root 7 over 2. And those are my other two answers. Okay? So, and this is a lot of work for one problem. I'm obviously not going to be able to put more than like 2 of these on the test, but they are worth a lot of points. So, because you know that when you long divide, the answer should be 0. So you should be able to get to this gray if you know how to long divide. And then it's just a matter of knowing the quadratic formula or completing the square. So you're gonna have to practice these. Okay, so here's another one. Write the equation of the graph in standard form. Okay, if I look at this thing, and some of you are already starting to work on this on your delta math. I've already helped a couple of you with this already because they're kind of mixed in with the assignment. This is definitely a degree 3 because it has 1, 2 bumps. And one of the bumps is on the axis, so that means it's a double root. Okay, so I'm going to get it in root form first. So I know y equals, I'm going to put an a here because we don't know our a value, but we know it hits at a negative 1, so x plus 1. And we know it hits at a positive 3, so x minus 3 squared. Okay, in Algebra 2, I will always give you a point. Okay, it might be the y-intercept. I think on Delta Math, a couple kids brought me some problems from Delta Math, and they were giving you the y-intercept, so that's probably easier than this one because you got to plug in 1. So I'm going to plug in 4 for my y and 1 for my x. Okay, so this side becomes 2 times a negative 2 squared is 2. No, geez, 2 squared is not 2. 2 squared is 4. Come on. Sorry, because it's a negative, right? So negative 2 times a negative 2 is 4. So this side is 8a, divide by 8. And my a value is 1/2. Positive. Now, this is going down, this is going up. That's definitely positive. So there is my root form. But the question says, put in standard form. So I'm going to have to write that out. 1/2 times x plus 1 times x minus 3 times x minus 3. Okay, and it doesn't matter what order. So I'm going to do the x minus 3's first. So that would be x squared minus 3x is minus 6x plus 9. And then I'm going to multiply by the x plus 1. So I'm going to multiply in by the x. That's x cubed minus 6x squared plus 9x. And then I'm going to multiply in by the 1 plus 1x squared minus 6x plus 9. And then I'm going to put like terms together and divide by 2. So 1/2 x cubed, that takes care of that. A negative 6 and a positive 1 is a negative 5. So you would times that by 1/2. So that would be a negative 5/2 x. Negative 5/2 x squared. And then I have a plus 9 and a minus 6. So that's 3. So half of that is 3/2 x. And then plus 9/2. So that would be my equation in standard form. On the test, I believe on your homework, it just asks for you to put it into standard form. But on the test, it will ask for factored form, which is this form right here. Okay, whoa, that's bad on the yellow. Factored form is this form right here. And then it will ask for standard. Because that way, at least I can give you partial credit if you can get the factored form. All right, so I believe there's almost a test question like this, and then you had a quiz question like this. If you've missed quizzes, Please look on the front board and find the times when I'm going to be there this week. Okay, it's not a lot of time, so you're going to have to work around my schedule this week, which is not normal. Usually I'm there. Okay, so absolute max or an absolute min. If so, where is it? So right here is my absolute max because it's absolutely the highest point on the graph. There's nothing higher. And it's about at a negative 1.53. We talked about like any of these where it asks where is it at is an estimate in this class. We aren't right now finding exact. Relative maxes or mins. Okay, this is where this gets confusing. Here is a relative min. At about 0, -4. Now, this is what I got in a big conversation when I taught this. This is a relative max, and this is, if they're asking me to list the relatives, my relative max is you have to list the absolute in there as well. So my relative maxes are -1.53 and 0.1. Okay. Is the A value for this negative or positive? It's definitely negative because both ends are going down. If you look, I have 1, 2, 3 bumps. So that's a degree 4 at least. It wants an equation. Now this is where I hope you're all still listening, because on the test, on this last 2 questions, they've asked for an equation in standard form, right? An equation in standard form. This one just says an equation. So if you're wasting time to multiply it out, that's your fault. Okay, it doesn't specify what type of equation. So I will take any answer. And so I'm just going to write the factored one and be done with it. Okay, I'm just telling you now that if it doesn't say, I will take anything. So my factored is, if I look at my roots, it's a double root at 1. So that's going to be x minus 1 squared. I've got a single root at a -1, so x plus 1. And I got a single root at a -2, so x plus 2. I do not know the A value, but I do know that I have a point at 0, -4 right here. So I'm going to put in a -4 for y, and I'm going to put 0 in for x. So -1 squared is 1 times 1 times 2. So that right side, 1 times 1 times 2 is 2a. So I'm going to divide by 2, and my answer is a -2. So I'm going to rewrite this right here, and I'm going to put the -2 there, and I'm going to circle my answer and be done. It does not put it in standard form. So please be very careful on homework and on tests and on quizzes. If you do extra work and you don't finish because multiplying that out, that's going to take a little bit of time. And I know that. So I'm not going to ask you to put it in standard form every time. But if you don't follow the directions and you do, then it's going to take time away from other problems. So please read the directions. Okay? So I would like you to pause the video. I would like you to try this one on your own. And then we'll discuss it. Pause, try it. Just attempt it. Okay. Does it have an absolute max? No, because those arrows are going opposite directions. So it does not have an absolute. There's nothing that is absolutely the highest point. It does have a relative max right here. Right? At about, I don't know, 0.5, 6.5. It's an estimate. And it does have a relative min at about 1, 2, 3.5, -1/2-ish, right? And so that's my answer to that. Is the A value for this function positive or negative? It is going up to the right, so it's positive. It's a positive A value. Okay, and then again, determine an equation. If you blow 5 minutes on this on the test because you're not reading the directions, that's kind of on you. So if I determine an equation that models it, I would say, okay, I have a single root there at a -1, so x plus 1. I have a single root at 3, so x minus 3. And I have another single root at x minus 4. I do not know the A value, but I do know that I have a point at 0, 6. So I'm going to plug 0 and 6 in. So 0 plus 1, 0 minus 3, 0 minus 4. So this side becomes 1 times a negative 3 times a negative 4, so that's 12. So my A value is a positive 1/2. And it just says determine an equation. Good enough. There's my equation. Okay, so your homework is in the calendar, and you have the rest of the time. So this week is going to take a lot of time working in class. So I would go ahead and get what you can done, and then I would make a note for what problems that we're going to need to go over when I get back.